Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a bunch of sources here you sent over, all focused on, well, a pretty critical document in the pharma world.
That's right. It's the CEO's opening remarks from AbbVie's Q3 2025 earnings call. Always a closely watched moment.
Exactly. And we're going to try and cut through, the usual corporate speak and the sheer volume of words in that transcript.
Yeah, pull out the core strategy.
All right. What are they really signaling?
Well, for you, the listener, our mission here is really to decode those key signals. What's the current momentum look like? Where are they putting their money, their investment?
And maybe most importantly, how stable do they feel about the future? How far out can they see clear growth?
And the headline message, it's pretty loud and clear. Performance isn't just good, it's actually beating expectations.
Which is why they've raised their 2025 outlook again, right? Isn't this the third time this year?
Third time, yeah. And raising guidance repeatedly like that, well, that sends a huge signal. It says there's some serious internal confidence about how things are running.
Deep confidence in their execution.
And what's interesting, digging into the materials, is that this strength isn't just one product or one area. It seems pretty systemic across the board.
Which must give them the confidence and, frankly, the cash to make some big long-term bets.
Precisely. It gives them cover for major strategic investments. So maybe let's start with the Q3 results themselves, the immediate picture.
Okay, yeah. Let's unpack those numbers. The CEO kicked off calling it an excellent quarter. Big headline there. Adjusted earnings per share, EPS, came in at $1.86. That was, what, 10 cents above their own guidance midpoint?
10 cents above, yeah. A very clean beat. Analysts always like to see that kind of clarity. No ambiguity there.
And total net revenues, nearly $15.8 billion.
Right. Now, the actual revenue beat itself was around $30 million, which, sounds almost tiny compared to $15.8 billion, like 0.2%.
Right. Hardly seems worth mentioning, maybe.
Well, the CEO highlighted it. And I think that signals operational discipline. It suggests their internal forecasts might be a bit conservative, or maybe their teams are just consistently executing slightly better than expected, squeezing out every bit of value.
Okay, maximizing things. And that maximization, it led to overall sales growth in the high single digits. Strong numbers.
Strong, yes. But if you look closer, the real engine wasn't sort of the older, established drugs. It was what they specifically called their growth platform.
Okay, so that's where the momentum is.
Absolutely. We have to talk immunology here.
Yeah.
Skyrizi and Rinvoq, their combined sales growth, over 40%.
Wow, 40%. That's huge.
It's not just good, it's phenomenal. Those two are really anchoring the company right now, successfully taking over from older drugs and winning serious market share. It's a tough space, too.
And it's not just immunology, is it? I think neuroscience got a specific mention.
It did. Second largest therapeutic area for them, and crucially, their fastest growing. Double-digit revenue growth there.
So you've got these two major engines, immunology and neuroscience, both accelerating fast. That sounds like real stability in a complex portfolio.
Exactly. And that stability point is key. The CEO made a point of emphasizing, and this is important, no significant LOE events in the near term.
Okay, let's pause on LOE. For anyone listening who isn't totally immersed in pharma finance, what does loss of exclusivity mean? Why is avoiding it so critical right now?
Right. LOE is basically the patent cliff. It's when your drug's market exclusivity runs out and bam, cheaper generics can flood the market.
And revenue just plummets, often permanently.
Exactly. So the CEO saying there are no major cliffs coming up soon. That's probably the strongest strategic signal they can send. It means their current growth drivers, like Skyrizi and Rinvoq, have a clear path.
An unobstructed path to keep generating huge revenues for years.
Well into the 2030s, potentially. That gives them a very long runway to plan and reinvest.
Okay, so that long runway brings us neatly to the next bit. If you've got strong performance now and a stable decade ahead, what do you do with the cash?
You reinvest heavily. And AbbVie is doing just that, particularly in R&D.
The scale of the R&D commitment here is pretty staggering when you look at the numbers.
It really is. Since AbbVie was formed back in 2013, they've plowed more than $84 billion into research and development, total.
$84 billion, just think about that. And it's not just spending. It's, like you said, it's a necessity, isn't it? You have to keep filling that pipeline.
Absolutely. Drugs fail in trials all the time. And even successful drugs eventually face that LOE cliff, eventually. So you constantly need new things coming through.
And they're not easing up. The plan for 2025, an adjusted R&D expense of $9 billion.
Which they described as a substantial increase over the prior year. So they're doubling down, really. taking current success and pouring it straight back into finding future winners.
So what does that $9 billion support? What does the pipeline actually look like?
It looks robust and pretty diverse. Around 90 programs, the CEO said, across all stages of development.
90. Wow.
Yeah. Focused on their core areas mostly. Immunology, oncology, neuroscience, aesthetics. But they've also added, strategically, obesity as a new growth area.
Interesting. Jumping into a huge, very competitive market there.
Shows they're willing to go where the unmet need is massive, even if it's crowded.
Okay, so with 90 programs running, there must be some key milestones coming up soon, things we should watch for.
Definitely. Over the next couple of years, they're expecting potential new product approvals. Tavapadon and Fimecca were mentioned by name. That's near-term revenue potential right there.
Okay, new products. What else?
Also crucial are expanded indications for drugs they already have. Think Rinvoq, Epkinly, Hulipa, Ubrelvy.
Right, so getting a drug approved for more diseases or patient groups.
Exactly. It can massively increase the number of patients who can benefit, and obviously the drug's sales potential, sometimes overnight.
And anything potentially transformative further out.
Well, they flagged pivotal data expected for a drug called Luticizumab A. If that data hits, well, it could be a major product driving growth later this decade and into the next one. It shows they're building for 2030 and beyond, not just managing today.
So a mix of near-term wins and long-term bets in the internal pipeline. But that's not the whole story, is it? They're also buying innovation externally.
Right. Augmenting that internal effort. 2 recent deals were highlighted.
What were they?
First was acquiring rights related to Gilgamesh's prednisolone. This adds a next-generation psychedelic to their psychiatry pipeline, already in Phase 2.
A Phase 2 psychedelic? That sounds pretty cutting edge, especially mentioning NDD, neurodegenerative disorder, maybe. It's a big step beyond typical antidepressants.
It is. It signals they're looking at totally novel mechanisms, treatments aiming for potentially deeper, more durable effects. So definitely pushing the scientific envelope, taking a calculated risk, perhaps.
Okay, that's intriguing. And the second deal, Capstan Therapeutics.
That one strengthens their immunology pipeline. But interestingly, it's not a drug they acquired. It's a technology platform, an in vivo CRT platform.
CRT usually makes me think of cancer and these complex, personalized cell therapies. What does in vivo mean here? Why is that platform significant?
Good question. So traditional CRT is ex vivo. You take the patient's key cells out, engineer them in a lab, grow them, then put them back in. It's complex, costly, takes time.
Right.
In vivo means doing the engineering inside the body. The idea is to deliver the gene editing tools directly to the patient, programming their T cells right where they are to fight the disease.
Wow, okay, so if that works.
If it works, it could potentially revolutionize things, make these powerful therapies much simpler, faster, cheaper to deliver. There's not just one drug. It's like buying a factory for future immunology drugs, a huge bet on a new way of doing gene therapy.
Okay, so we've got strong current performance driving massive R&D investment, both internal and external, all aimed at securing growth deep into the 2030s. How does this translate into sort of more tangible long-term commitments, infrastructure, shareholders?
Well, the CEO made it clear this investment isn't just abstract. It's anchored physically, particularly in the U.S. They committed to investing at least $10 billion in capital here over the next 10 years.
$10 billion in the U.S. That definitely sounds like a nod towards supply chain security, maybe, especially after the last few years.
Could well be part of it. And it's not just talk. They're already building. Construction's underway on a new API manufacturing site up in North Chicago.
API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, so the core chemical components of drugs. Making more of that domestically seems like a big strategic move. Insulates them a bit.
Definitely. And at the same time, they're expanding their biologics manufacturing and R&D capacity down at their site in Worcester, Massachusetts.
So investing in both small molecules, API, and the complex biologics, it sounds like they're building the physical capacity to actually produce everything coming out of that 90-program pipeline.
That seems to be the plan. Matching the pipeline ambition with manufacturing muscle.
And this confidence, this long-term view, it also flows through to shareholders, right? The dividend was mentioned.
Yes, they announced a 5.5% increase in the quarterly cash dividend. That starts with the payout early next year, February 2026.
5.5% increase? That's a pretty solid hike. Signals confidence in future cash flow, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Management wouldn't do that unless they felt very confident about predictable, growing free cash flow down the road. And you have to see it in context, too.
How so?
Since AbbVie started in 2013, their quarterly dividend has grown by over 330%. That kind of consistent growth year after year. It's a powerful statement about the resilience and profitability of their model. They can fund massive R&D and reward shareholders.
Right. It builds a lot of investor trust over time. So the CEO's summary is pretty straightforward then.
Very much so. Outstanding execution now. Very strong long-term outlook. That was the core message.
Okay, so if we try and pull this all together, what's the final takeaway?
I think the synthesis is this. The exceptional financial strength they have right now isn't just sitting there. It's being actively, immediately plowed back into the business.
Through those strategic acquisitions we talked about.
Right, and that enormous ongoing R&D spend. They're using today's success to very deliberately build the foundations for growth that extends well beyond the next decade. It's about sustainability.
You know, the number that still gets me is that $84 billion in R&D since 2013 and $9 billion planned for just this year. It's just mind-boggling.
It is.
And that money, it's not paying for stuff that already works. It's paying for the chance of future success. It makes you, the listener, really think, that what does it actually cost a company like this? The sheer relentless capital commitment, the strategic focus needed just to keep a pipeline of, 90 programs going, knowing full well that most of them won't make it.
Yeah, the failure rate in drug development is incredibly high. Still.
It really underscores the astronomical cost and maybe the risk involved in staying at the absolute cutting edge of medicine today.
It really does. It highlights that success in this game isn't about one magic bullet. It's about building this institutional engine that can actually afford to try and maybe fail 89 times.
Just to find that one breakthrough that powers the next decade.
Exactly. The economics of innovation are pretty stark when you look at it that way.
A really profound thought to end on. Thanks for diving into all this with us today. It's given us a much clearer picture.
My pleasure. Always fascinating to unpack these strategic messages.
Indeed. Well, until next time, keep thinking big picture.